It is generally said amongst the Winx Club fandom that Season 8 as a whole is a hit or a miss. I am with the majority that says it was meh at best. There are a boatload of problems with Season 8, but as you can see from the title of this video, we will be talking about one specific problem that annoys many people: Valtor. Hey everybody, it's Chisei here. I am once again hyper-fixating on Winx Club, which means it's time to make a video relating to it. This one is also going to be special in the fact that this is actually a remake of a video I released in 2020. However, because Rainbow is a huge bitch about copyright, the video was blocked worldwide pretty much instantly, and only about 50 people managed to ever view it. I of course still have access to it through my YouTube studio, and I recently rewatched it, expecting to drown and cringe from how bad it was. However, I was pleasantly surprised. The only bad parts of the video were some of the audio editing and me stumbling when reading the script. Otherwise, I thought I presented the subject matter quite well and made my opinion surprisingly clear. It's just a shame the video went to waste. But I think I'm going to take a stab at remaking the video, and I'll do so in a way that tries to avoid the copyright issues of the previous version. The outline and basis of the original script will remain mostly the same, with the wording changed, and I also wanted to add in a bit about Fate the Winx Saga Season 2. I want to try and use as many clips from the show as possible, but there will likely just be some gameplay or speed paint footage in the background for a lot of it. We'll see what happens though, and I hope you guys enjoy! Oh, and a quick disclaimer. This video will include spoilers for Season 3 and 8 of the original Winx Club series, as well as spoilers for Season 2 of Fate the Winx Saga. If you don't wish to be spoiled, please go and watch those first. This video should still be here when you get back. Fans of Winx Club generally agree that the golden age of the series was Seasons 1 through 3, with Season 4 being relatively decent, and everything starting on a big downhill slide in quality from Season 5 onwards. The Nickelodeon deal kinda started this trend, as they tried to focus the series more towards kids specifically, rather than continuing with the original demographic of kids, teens, and even young adults. The aftermath of this deal saw Rainbow taking a long break between Seasons 7 and 8 as they tried to think up a new plan for the series. Even after Season 8's generally poor reception, it seemed that they were going to have to try something new, which has led us to Fate the Winx Saga, and a future reboot of the series. However, that history isn't the main focus of this video. I want to keep the focus mostly on Season 8, Rainbow's first answer to the series' identity crisis following the Nickelodeon era. Season 8 debuted with a completely new art style that was vastly different from the original. In an effort to appeal to older fans of the series, they brought back a lot of things from older seasons, such as two fan-favorite transformations, Enchantix and Sirenix. This had mixed reception due to the redesigns of the forms and their implementation, but was overall executed alright. The Sirenix redesigns are considered to be much better than the originals, and even the implementation of Crystal Sirenix was an interesting move. The execution of Enchantix, however, left a lot to be desired. Personally, the redesigns have grown on me, but the fandom as a whole doesn't seem to be too keen on its usage. However, the reuse of old transformations wasn't the only thing Rainbow brought back in an effort to try and please older fans. They also chose to bring back a previous villain, one that is considered to be the best in the entire franchise: Valtor. Valtor has been the most well-liked and loved villain in the Winx Club franchise for a long time now, and that's for good reasons. In Season 3, when he was first an antagonist for the series, he was absolutely fantastic at being what a successful villain should be. Back in Season 3, Valtor had an attitude of being slightly egotistical because he felt that no one would be able to defeat him because he had accrued so much power. Hell, he managed to help take out Bloom's parents with the ancestral witches. He is very powerful, and he knows it. When the Tricks would criticize him after a failed attempt at defeating the Winx, Valtor would immediately get angry and scold them, saying that they were wrong. He hates when people question his power because he knows how much of it he has and what he can do with it. Because of his egotistical nature, he comes off as suave and charming, which helps win over fans and makes him such a lovable antagonist. I adore Valtor's character, and 90% of the time when I go back to rewatch season 3, it's because I love him and want to see more of him. I've joked about it to friends before, but he's just one of those characters that I've arbitrarily decided to add to my harem alongside Tuxedo Mask, Levi from Attack on Titan, Narcissidu from Pretty Cure, and some others. The writers did such a fantastic job with Valtor that I just can't help it. I love him and will simp for him until the end of my days. And I'll be honest, besides his really good writing, a big part of my love for Valtor does come from Josh Keaton's phenomenal voice acting in the Nickelodeon dub. Like, I'm sorry, but at this point, I refuse to watch any other dub of Season 3, purely because the other voice actors for Valtor are simply inferior. Keaton is Valtor to me, and I will not be taking questions on this, thank you.
Then I'll leave you to your festivities. I must go as well. But I'm sure we'll see each other again very soon.
Then I will leave you to your festivities. Just think, next time I see you, you'll be the Queen and Princess of Solaria.
Then I'll leave you to your festivities. I must also depart. But I'm sure we'll see each other again very soon.
Like, come on. He's perfect. He has Valtor's charming yet manipulative nature down to an exact science. Keaton is Valtor. Moving back to the meat of the video. Valtor was always a more hands-on villain. In Season 1, the Tricks did partake in hands-on attacks, but once they got their hands on the Dragon Flame and were able to control the Army of Darkness, they elected to sit back and let said army do all of their dirty work. Lord Darkar also elected to sit back in his underground fortress rather than confront the Winx directly. He would send the Tricks out to do that for him. Valtor, on the other hand, wasn't like that. To get his power, he would travel to many different worlds to steal their magic spells himself. He didn't need to send the Tricks out to do his dirty work. For some specific examples, he nearly takes down the governments of 2 different planets from the inside. He convinced Cassandra and Chimera to join him and had Cassandra put King Radius under a spell. That gave Valtor a political foothold in Solaria, Stella's homeworld. He then moved to Heraklion and convinced Diaspro to bewitch Sky with a potion. That gave him another political foothold, albeit for a shorter amount of time than the one he held in Solaria. It also served as a way for him to weaken Bloom by attacking her where she was vulnerable, her love for Sky. Valtor was always willing to get what he wanted by his own hands. He didn't need to send the Tricks out with the power-up of the season, because he knew he'd be able to do the work necessary by himself. Another thing that made Valtor a fantastic villain is how he managed to make his battles with the Winx personal. With Bloom, he had essentially taken away her entire life. He nearly killed her birth parents, helped to destroy her kingdom, and is inherently linked to her through the Dragon Flame. And as I mentioned previously, he helped Diaspro bewitch Sky, which took away a person that Bloom deeply cared about for quite a while. With Stella, he helped Cassandra and Chimera take over Solaria, taking away her title of princess. With Aisha, it was how he left the Omega Dimension portal open essentially for most of the season, driving the entire planet of Andros into turmoil. When Aisha confronts him in episode 5, Valtor blinds her for daring to confront him. Then, to rub salt into the wound, because of the Omega portal being left open, Tecna later decided to close it, which very nearly killed her. Valtor was very good at making things personal with the Winx, so there was more of a valid reason for their mission of defeating him beyond the usual, we must save the world stuff. Valtor was an absolutely fantastic villain in Season 3 because of all of that. It's why he has continued to hold the spot of favorite villain for so many fans for years and years. I've watched Season 3 more than any of the others, partially when I was watching all the different dubs, because as I mentioned, I adore Valtor. His writing, his antics, his Nickelodeon voice, it's all simply perfect and I can never get enough of him. And when I found out that he would be returning as the main villain for Season 8, I was so excited. Sure, it made absolutely no sense and was supremely cheap, but I was excited nonetheless. I'd heard that Season 8 overall was a mess, but I decided to push past any of those issues because Valtor was back and damn it, I was going to enjoy the season because of that. But I was utterly disappointed. Well, sort of. The only similarities between these two different depictions of Valtor is in their name and design. The Valtor in Season 8 might as well be a completely different villain, or even Valtor's less effective twin brother. That's how different he is in Season 8. Let me explain why. Well, before the obligatory complaining, let me explain a few positives that are here. Valtor actually looks pretty good and moderately threatening in the revamped art style. There are quite a few moments and shots where I'd argue he even looks more threatening than he did in Season 3, and pretty badass. And while the bulk of his design is the same as it was in Season 3, they did make a few minimal changes that give him a slightly more modern look. His necktie thing is attached to the collar of his shirt rather than just being tied around his neck, and his purple vest has a slightly different look with less details all around. His jacket has more obvious detailing on the top and 2 more slits at the bottom. Lastly, his boots are a different style and he no longer wears gloves, which might not really be that big of a change because the Season 3 animators didn't remember to draw his gloves like 70% of the time. It isn't a drastic redesign, but it does enough to modernize it while staying true to the original. Also, his lair this season is actually pretty kick-ass. It's definitely foreboding in a way that mostly fits Valtor's own foreboding nature. I also sort of dig his new theme song, even if it doesn't hold a candle to the original. It does fit this version of Valtor. And, well, that's it for the positives. Time to complain. First off, something a little petty. Even though I did just say that Valtor looks good in the new art style, there are some shots where he simply looks god-awful and downright goofy. I don't even, look at this. You can't tell me that this looks good. If you say it does, you are gaslighting yourself. Moving on. The way Valtor is brought back is nowhere near satisfying, epic, nor fitting for a villain such as him. As Unicorn of War put it in his video on Season 8,
but in Season 8, he's basically brought back by shadow voodoo, I guess.
Argan, Queen Dorana's brother, was mad that he wasn't being recognized as much as she was, so I guess he just stormed off one day and came across what was mentioned to be Valtor's remaining life force in the middle of some forest. Argan then channels Valtor's energy with the power of the stars, and Valtor then regains his physical form. Really? That's how he's brought back? With the power of the stars? Dude. Valtor was originally created by the 3 ancestral witches from a spark of the dragon flame that fell into the darkness during the creation of the magical universe. He was created by the most evil and powerful beings in the dimension at that time. Even though his powers had been weakened after his imprisonment, his escape from Omega in Season 3 still put the entire dimension on high alert because of his past of working with the Ancestral Witches and helping them to destroy Domino. Throughout the whole season, everyone feared him and his actions had a direct effect on every corner of the universe. It took Bloom entering his soul, I guess, and snuffing out his part of the dragon flame with her fairy dust to defeat him. Yet in Season 8, he is brought back by a bitter prince who is annoyed with his sibling. Also, Life Force? What Life Force? Didn't Bloom essentially kill Valtor in the Season 3 finale? How would there be any Life Force left over? Not only is the continuity within the series all sorts of fucked up here, but this doesn't even fit the harshness of Valtor. Why not do something like have Argan already be corrupted and out for vengeance, and have him venture into the primordial darkness and find that, oh wow, there's a spark of the dragon flame here and it has loose traces of consciousness. Then he just does what the witches did and voila, Valtor's back. Is that a super solid idea? Maybe not, but it's damn well better than the bullshit Season 8 gave us. God, the way he was brought back was so disappointing and wildly underwhelming, but whatever. Rainbow just wanted to shove him into Season 8 to nostalgia bait older fans and make them care about the series again. Oh, but just you wait. it only goes downhill from here. Let's talk about his personality. In Season 8, Valtor is far more angry than he used to be. While yes, Valtor could and would get angry in Season 3, he didn't truly lose his temper that frequently. The only times he would lose it was when his ego was put into question, usually by the Tricks, or when he was desperate to succeed at his conquest. In Season 8, however, he is constantly losing his temper at so many insignificant things, and it's not because someone is questioning his ego or power. Valtor most often loses his temper because sEbAsTiAn is just annoying, which, fair enough, I guess. When he gets to a breaking point, he'll send sEbAsTiAn to this goofy place called the Trap Dimension, where he falls through and hits his head on a bunch of rocks, gets eaten by an alligator creature, is the ball in a pinball machine, or way too many other possibilities. Season 3 Valtor would have never done this. It's so damn goofy. He's become your average, angry, power-hungry bad guy with zero substance whatsoever. His suave, charming yet manipulative nature is just gone. Like, I wish I could explain his personality better, but I really can't. He really is just an average angry bad guy with zero characterization otherwise. And when it comes to growing his powers, Valtor is, say it with me now, nothing like he used to be. As I said earlier, in Season 3, Valtor would travel to different worlds, conquer them in a matter of seconds, and sometimes turn their people into his minions to accrue power. This was most often done all by his own hands. He wasn't a villain who relied on his minions to do his bidding for him. He would get his hands dirty and do the work himself. Season 8 Valtor, however, is pretty much the exact opposite. In the first half, he sits back in his castle while sending out sEbAsTiAn to take light from the cores of stars across the magical universe using the star yummies. Fuck me. I don't think he left his castle once outside of the mid-season finale, where he was kind of forced to. In the second half, he sits back in his castle and sends out the Tricks on various attempts at capturing the Prime Stars, which is our obligatory plot MacGuffin for the season. Woo! And again, he only leaves his castle once during this stretch, and that doesn't include the finale. I think this was also the only time he actually took the light from a star's core himself. I could be wrong, though, don't quote me on that. These 2 whole times Valtor left his castle were also only his plot-obligated confrontations with the Winx. They weren't him traveling to a different world to steal Starlight for himself. It was just because the plot demanded, you must confront our protagonists because otherwise our fans will be bored. Oh, and speaking of the Tricks, their return also killed any remaining threat Valtor may have posed in Season 8, because after they were freed from their latest arbitrary prison sentence in episode 13, Valtor only shows up in like 4 more episodes afterwards. I guess Rainbow forgot he existed because now we have to nostalgia bait fans with the Tricks, even though people are sick of them since they've been shoved into every season since Season 5. Forget that Valtor is generally more popular with fans, even if they fucked up his writing too. People definitely want to see more of the Tricks being boring as fuck. Yes sirree. Although, to be fair, they at least gave Icy a pretty interesting backstory, and they actually helped the Winx defeat Valtor, so, they get a pass from me this time. Also, their musical theme kicks ass. Anyways, Valtor in Season 8 just sat back and sent out his minions to do his work, a la Lord Darkar from Season 2. He only went out himself when the plot demanded that he needed to. Also, why is it the power from star cores that Valtor is going after? What does his magic do for him specifically? Like, why not just have him do what he did before and steal spells from different worlds with varying types of magic? Aren't star cores all just the same generic light-based magic? Why not have him gain allies within powerful governments to take them down from within to weaken the worlds and the Winx? I don't even have a good alternative idea as to how they could have made the wanting star core powers thing work, because it just doesn't make sense. Having Valtor just sit back in his castle and relying on his minions takes away any threatening aura he may have once had, and doesn't make sense with his established character from Season 3. All of this also ties into another thing Rainbow took away from Valtor: his ability to make things with the Winx personal. Because he is constantly sitting back in his castle and rarely confronts the Winx himself, there are very few encounters where he fights them directly. Also, the effects he has on the magical universe via Obscurum's attacks on star cores don't have a direct effect on the Winx either. Twinkly just has a plot projection screen that shows exactly which star is being attacked, instead of those attacks having a direct effect on the universe as a whole, and that's how the Winx figure out there's a problem, as they did back in Season 3.
What do you think caused it? A dimensional shockwave, and that means something really terrible has happened to the heart of all oceans.
Because of the lack of actual confrontations with the Winx, there is nothing he does that actually causes them to hate him beyond the very generic, "Oh, this is the bad guy, we must defeat." This again leads to him not being threatening in the slightest. The only time he comes off as threatening is in the aforementioned mid-season finale. This takes place over episodes 12 and 13 of Season 8. Valtor, at this point, is fed up with Obscurum's lack of results, so he decides to finally confront the Winx himself. Oh, I'm sorry, not the Winx. He just wants to confront Bloom. Bloom was on Earth throwing a birthday party for her mom when Valtor launched an attack on the core of the sun. Side note, why does the sun have a core when it's outside of the magic universe? Anyways, Valtor learns of the wishing star and decides that he needs to take Bloom's cosmic's power to get it, since his dark magic wouldn't allow him to get it normally. This is what leads to him launching this attack. Once he draws Bloom and the other Winx into the core of the sun, he blasts Bloom through a portal so they can talk alone. This is where Valtor offers her 3 choices: save her friends, who are under threat from a monster in the core, save her family and Gardenia from destruction via 2 approaching giants, or to save everyone by giving him her cosmic's power. This is the closest thing we get this season to Valtor actually being threatening and making something personal. He's directly threatening the lives of Bloom's loved ones and forces her to make an incredibly difficult choice. Not that it means anything because the cosmic's power rejects Valtor because the plot said so, but it's fine. Still the best thing Valtor does all season, so I'll take it. Especially since he never does anything remotely close to this for the rest of the season. No, the finale does not count. Guess it's time we talk about that stupid finale and Valtor's defeat. So the Winx are finally able to locate Valtor's castle. Aisha, Stella, and Flora disguise themselves as the Tricks so they can sneak inside, while Bloom, Tecna, and Musa remain outside. Their cover is blown, so Bloom, Tecna, and Musa head inside to join the others and to confront the Tricks. The Tricks hold the final Prime Star, so Bloom tries to tell Icy specifically to give it to them so the magic universe isn't destroyed. Valtor demands she give it to him instead, but the Tricks refuse and show him that his mark has been removed from them, so they are no longer under his control. This infuriates Valtor, which causes him to transform into his demon monster form. I've never really liked this form of his because obviously I prefer his humanoid form. But I will say, however, that the redesigned monster form does look pretty good. I really like how they have his similar mark on his chest and the helmet-looking thing he wears. And another side note, sorry. The way Rainbow implemented the use of Valtor's mark throughout Season 8, outside of the Tricks, was stupid and was literally not how the mark works. Valtor used it sort of like a branding to show who his allies were. It wouldn't just materialize when a monster was defeated. But we've already established that Season 8 likes to pretend Season 3 basically didn't happen, so whatever. So Valtor transforms into his monster form, and everyone heads outside to continue the fight. I wish there was more to say about this fight, but it is the most generic fight against a Monster of the Week format possible. The Winx are only using generic energy beams and shields as they have for the last few seasons. Even the specialists show up for absolutely no reason. They shoot Valtor, like, once and just leave, I guess? While this battle is happening, we see the Tricks off to the side debating on what they should do with the Prime Star. They ultimately decide to give it to the Winx, which then grants them the power of all of the Prime Stars, even the ones Valtor had managed to snag. This brings the wishing star to the Winx, and they then wish that they will always be able to protect the magical universe. Their wish is granted, but all this does is just give them a generic power boost that makes them all glow yellow. And then all they do with this is hit Valtor with their generic energy beams, and then Valtor is just gone. Hi. What the fuck? As I mentioned earlier, again, Valtor was defeated in Season 3 by Bloom essentially entering his soul to put out his part of the dragon flame with her fairy dust. This is her basically killing him, and he even seems to scream in what I assume was a mix of fury and pain. Yet, with the power of a generic convergence spell, Valtor disintegrates and now he's just gone again, I guess. It's so fucking lame. Valtor is so vicious and power-hungry that Bloom killing him in Season 3 made sense. By comparison, him being defeated because of a basic-ass convergence spell is incredibly underwhelming. Say what you want about Season 3's admittedly overall lacking finale, at least Valtor's defeat fit his character that season. Although I guess this version of Valtor is also lame and not nearly as threatening, so I guess this defeat works in that context. Regardless, this finale is again underwhelming, boring, and does nothing interesting. Although, in my opinion, it's not Valtor's worst defeat. We'll get there. If I were to be honest here, I would say that Season 8 Valtor is the weaker version of Tritannus from Season 5, which is saying something, since Tritannus is already kind of dumb on his own. Both of them are constantly angry at every little thing, lose their tempers all the time, and both are after great power 'cause reasons. At the very least, Tritannus would actually travel to the oceans of various worlds to wreak havoc and posed a decent threat throughout the whole season. And of course, the Season 5 finale was underwhelming, but comparatively speaking, it was far better than Season 8's. Everyone was putting in effort to fight Tritannus and his army. The stakes felt higher, and there was an actual sense of urgency to defeat him as soon as possible. But in Season 8, the final battle just sort of happens. The Winx confront Valtor, the Tricks piss him off, and then suddenly he transforms to fight the Winx. It all came out of, nowhere, and there was no urgency at all. Valtor just suddenly became a slightly stronger monster of the week that was defeated with zero issue because he wasn't any more powerful than he was during the rest of the season. The Season 8 finale was overall just a serious letdown, and was not only an awful end to the season, but to such a well-loved villain. There was so much potential for Valtor's return and his defeat, but Rainbow completely wasted it. They stomped on Valtor's legacy and essentially made him a completely different character. However, this surprisingly wasn't the last time they'd bring Valtor back. Let's talk about how he was handled in Fate. Fate the Winx Saga is a live-action adaptation of Winx Club that is highly contested due to its dramatic departure from the source material, as well as the blatant whitewashing of multiple characters. Only 2 seasons were produced before the series was ultimately cancelled, because Netflix hates everything that isn't wildly popular. Overall, I thought it was alright, but I of course prefer the source material. Relevant to this video, though, is Season 2, because, surprisingly, Valtor is actually sort of here as the main antagonist for the season, which absolutely flabbergasted me. It's also the only reason I even watched Season 2 to begin with. Him being here is so weird, though, because this character is never referred to as Valtor. Valtor has actually been made his last name, and he's been given the first name of sEbAsTiAn. His full name is also only said once in episode 6 by Queen Luna in an address to the Underworld, after Bloom kills Rosalind.
Blood witches. Their hatred of our kind is well known. But a heinous act such as this is unprecedented, carried out by their leader, sEbAsTiAn Valtor.
Aside from that, weird aspect of the name thing, I actually enjoy how sEbAsTian was written overall. They actually stayed relatively true to Valtor's methods by having sEbAsTian steal magic from fairies and also being quite manipulative in his quest to acquire the dragon flame. Very quick lesson on Fate lore. The important groups in the Otherworld are fairies, specialists, and blood witches. Blood witches get a bit more attention in Season 2, and we learn that their magic isn't effective against fairy magic. Fairies also seem to hate all blood witches, and vice versa. Valtor, or sEbAsTiAn, is a blood witch in Fate, and he wants to get revenge on fairies for the treatment of his kind. Actually, I lied, because that's not his true goal, which leads to something very weird, yet one of the more intriguing parts of his character. sEbAsTian's true goal here is to open a portal to the realm of darkness, as there exists an entity that can revive the dead. He wants to use this entity's power to revive those from Astrodel, a place where blood witches once lived. I'm not going back to watch this since Fate episodes are so long, so I apologize if this is all a little vague, but the way Fate presented this, it came off to me that they essentially combined Lord Darkar's motivations and goals from Season 2 with Valtor's methods from Season 3 to make a weird yet oddly interesting hybrid antagonist. While I was shocked at this reveal, I was also pleasantly surprised, and it instantly made sEbAsTiAn far more interesting to me. In terms of personality, sEbAsTiAn retains a lot of Valtor's manipulativeness, although he's not nearly as aggressive when it comes to achieving his goals, nor is he as cruel. In that sense, sEbAsTiAn also sort of takes after Lord Darkar, who is more laid back by comparison. It was an interesting take on Valtor, and even if what they did was quite a big departure from the source material, I did enjoy sEbAsTiAn overall because he was written quite well. He's a twist villain who we don't learn is the villain until episode 3, but his motivations were solid and he was very methodical about how he wanted to achieve his goals. However, as with most other aspects of Fate and the rest of the franchise nowadays, the finale was supremely underwhelming! So, sEbAsTiAn kidnaps Sky to try and force Bloom to give him the dragon flame so he can open the gate to the realm of darkness. He also says that if she does so, he will tell her all she needs to know about her origins. To Fate's credit, this makes things personal with Bloom, which is a plus, and another way I feel that they properly adapted Valtor's methods of achieving power, even if it again was only with one of the Winx. To give him the dragon flame, sEbAsTiAn instructs Bloom to channel her power into a convergence crystal. She does so for a while, but Beatrix shows up and frees Sky, which causes Bloom to focus on him rather than the crystal, and reveals to sEbAsTiAn that Beatrix was never on his side. sEbAsTiAn is enraged and just fucking kills Beatrix, I guess. I laughed way too hard at this. Anyways, Beatrix's death causes Bloom's rage to really come out, and she moves to confront sEbAsTiAn. Shortly after, Stella, Aisha, and Tara show up to try and calm Bloom down so she doesn't destroy the whole school. Then Aisha's love interest, Gray, I think, shows up and revives Sky using his powers. Oh yeah, he's also a blood witch. This breaks Bloom's focus on sEbAsTiAn again, which gives the others an opening to finally use transformation magic. Yay! Oh god, it's hideous. Once they've all transformed and have donned their lame-ass CGI wings, they all shoot generic beams of energy at sEbAsTiAn, who quite literally just stands there and does nothing to stop them. Bloom rejoins them with her own generic energy beam, and then poof! sEbAsTiAn is just Thanos'd out of existence. I have no idea how they managed to make Valtor's defeat in Fate feel even more underwhelming than his defeat in Season 8, but they did. He was essentially defeated in the same manner in both versions, yet the live-action version felt so much more underwhelming because sEbAsTiAn didn't even try to fight back. He just stood there and let them defeat him. The whole season, sEbAsTiAn was actually quite compelling and well written, but they forgot to do the same for his defeat, which puts a really big bruise on his character overall. They had a good actor, they had a good story, they had decent writing, and yet they dropped the ball so hard. Maybe the fate stuff feels a little tacked on at the end here because it doesn't fit in overall after discussing the animated show, but I feel it still shows that the writers at Rainbow, Netflix, or whoever just don't really understand Valtor and why he is as popular as he is in the fandom. They keep shoving him into new iterations of their story and have somehow managed to mess it up each time. They almost succeeded in Fate, but they ruined what they had with the most pathetic defeat a character has ever had in the entire franchise. Well, I guess Acheron's was worse. Maybe. So those are my overall thoughts on how I feel Rainbow ruined Valtor's legacy and character. There were some good things they did well, but many more that they didn't that wound up tainting what was once the strongest and most well-loved antagonist from the earlier seasons. He's no longer threatening in the slightest, and he's not even charming or manipulative in the same way either. The only reason I ever go back to watch Season 8 is purely because of Valtor, and somehow I am still let down each time, even though I know I'm going in with the knowledge that Valtor isn't the same. At least there was some improvement in Fate, but even then, it's nowhere near the same. I'm interested to see what will happen in the reboot, though. I wonder if it will start out with the Trix as villains, or even the Wizards of the Black Circle, as we've seen them in some promo art. However, if at some point they do choose to bring back Valtor, I really hope they listen to the fandom and are able to relearn why he's so beloved and why what they did in 2007 worked so well. I hope they return him to his cunning nature and tactical methods of accruing power. I hope they have him make things personal with the Winx so there's more incentive to defeat him. And I hope Josh Keaton gets to reprise his role. I can't say for sure if I believe Valtor will return in the reboot, but I definitely won't get my hopes up. There are plenty of other things I'm excited for in the reboot, and if I want truly faithful and well-written Valtor content, there will always be the original Season 3 for me to go back and watch. Anyways, that will do it for the video. I know most of you never saw the original, but if by some miracle you did and remember it, I hope you saw some improvements. Otherwise, I hope you all enjoyed hearing me rant about a character I love way, way too much. If you want to see similar content from me relating to Winx Club, Precure, or whatever else, let me know. Otherwise, you can feel free to follow me on Twitter, Instagram, or TikTok to see what other content I have. Again, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I will see you in the next one.